Okay, so we're back to fighting sail, and gotta kind of. This is. I end up playing almost all of these except the very last one, Battle of Santo Domingo, and of course, the Beat to Quarters one. About the same. I just usually peter out after the big Lake Erie fight, all right? And so this is action off Venice, HMS Victorious. This is a ship of the line. Now it has 74 guns, and it looks like a fairly heavily rated ship. The Rivoli is also a 74 gunner, and you can see its firepower ratings are much lower. Presumptively, if you look at the crew ratings as well, these two things are kind of closely related. Even though they have the same amount of guns, the quality of the British crew is being reflected both in the gunfire rating and in the crew quality rating, which largely affects melee. Likewise, and it could also affect sailing ability as well, although the Bs should mostly handle that. And then we have the Weasel, which is an 18 gunner. Brig, and 3 brigs for the French, the Jena, Mercure, which are both 18 gunners, and the 10 gun Mameluke, tiny little brig, so that'll be actually not a very good sailor, and you can see that's 7th rate, while these are all 6th rates, and these two are 3rd rate. Although anything below 4th rate isn't really a rate at all, right? Okay. So now this says, yeah, these don't have game turn lengths. These last until the battle is resolved, basically. Once we get to the last couple scenarios, they actually have a specified game length. And they're not very long, actually. So this is where the system starts to shine, because if you're handling 5 ships, well, 4 ships in this case, right, for the French, on one side in wooden ships and Iron Men, I'm assuming it starts to get a little bit harder to do all the plotting and everything. Ironclads, you never have to get to that. Although I've handled games of trireme where you use plotted movement with, maybe 12, 15 ships on a side. So, I don't know. It's not terrible. It's just, this is going to be a much smoother system to move. So, let's get some counters out and get this started. Wind's coming from here. The English, I think, win this sucker. In an extended engagement, the Rivoli was battered to a wreck by the Victorious, while the Weasel engaged the 3 French brigs, blowing up the Mercure and driving the Jena and Mameluke away. All right. Well, we dropped all the markers on. We'll flip them up. One of the goals at this point is to maintain the wind gauge. For the British, they're going to probably they're going to have it down because they're broad-reaching with an A-quality ship. That'll give them 6 movement points. Nothing's going to match that. The best the French can do is get 1 ship into that position, and in fact, they're doing that by putting a starboard. But right now, they're running, which means they only have 4 movement points at this point. And likewise, the Weasel is running, which only gives it 4 movement points. But everyone is trying to turn so that the wind is going to give them beam reaching. Now, you can kind of cheat this by using studded sails. It's not really cheating, but now a sea running is only a 3 movement allowance, and that's what the poor Mameluke is. But by turning to take the wind to my favor, I'll not only get a little bit more speed, but also get the advantages there. Now, the optional rule is not allowed to come into play with this. This is a 6-ship scenario. Although I've played with it no matter what. And let's see, what would those studding sails give me? They just increase it, so if I was beating, I'd be beam reaching, la la la. I don't like doing it because you're just too vulnerable, perhaps, to the rigging fire at close range. And one of the French advantages here is the number of ships. You start immobilizing some of them, and this game just, kind of breaks down for them. All right, well, the Brits get to choose who the French are going to move first. Actually, do they get to choose the ship, or do they just point to the player? Yeah, he just announces the player. So the player gets to choose the ship. So they can say, okay, French, go. And the French will say, oh, okay, I'll move like that. And there goes my marker. And they can make them go again and again and again. I like the optional rule better, but, well, we'll just keep going with this. I'm not going to play it all out on video. I'm going to probably try to be a little less detailed because we have more ships here, and I'd like to keep these things kind of short. Forcing the French to all move first, now I've got a wonderful position here. 3, 6, boom. Opening up on them. I'm at range 5. That's going to be a minus, I got to get some dice. That's going to be a minus 10. But it's been a while since I've calculated these out, and I'm sure if you've been watching these at all, you probably remember them better than I do, even though I just got myself confused by the 1853 stuff. Okay, so let's see. Rates are the same. Range is minus 10, no damage. I'm not sure about rigging fire, maybe. Minus 10. This is going to be a bow rake, so that evens me up. And now it's a first broadside, so it's plus 10. Now I've got to write down my ships, and I'll do that in a moment. Well, I better do it now. This is probably going to be... Okay, so all figured, I think we're breaking even here, right? Range is minus 10. First fire and bow rake. So I'm at plus 10. I'm at a 72. Now if I do rigging fire, I drop down to a 62. See, that's pretty nice. But I think I'd rather the 72 because it gives me another shot at a critical. So I'll go for the hull. 26, plus it gives me the ability to do 2 hits over on the Rivoli. And it obviously isn't going to get to fire back anyhow. And now we get to move this sucker. And we'll get into position there. And that puts us on turn 2. Stupid me. This is in an era where SPI was trying and playing around with ideas of how to make their games more accessible. And they put a whole bunch of cheat sheet here, all the fire modifiers built into the rear page, along with the sequence of play. And nice, easy to read, friendly lettering. That's pretty cool. So you don't have to watch my fingers flipping things over. These are the selections about the lead ships making a turn to port, British other ship going ahead, whereas the French, what is this? The Mercure is taking a starboard turn. Actually, they were hoping the Brits would go ahead. They might be able to cross the T, but here's the problem. As to wind gauge, the Brits have 2 ships going speed 6. The French have only 1. Little cool markers. Their other ships are all B rates or worse. So they don't get that full speed. So they're not going to get the wind gauge off this. And that means, again, the Brits get to choose what goes first. Now, the first question is, cool, I can get another bow rake if I go like this. And I'm going to take that move, and I'm going to fire that off. Now, I've already fired my first broadside, so I'm at minus 10 and plus 10 for the bow rake. So I'm at even. No first fire there, which is just a 62. I'm hoping to chew the Rivoli up so much that it really can't fire back. And, well, it takes 7 hits to go under. But these hits do damage to the crew. 56, that's enough to do 1. Let me see, and that is my single fire that I'm allowed. Let me see the effect of the hits on the crew, because we may be in trouble there. Hull damage, every hull hit, its crew damage, its crew value goes down by 1. So I've taken 3, so now I have a crew value of 3. What is the effect of a low crew? It certainly hurts my melee tremendously, but let me check 12, see if yeah, I don't think the crew has any other effect on that. So I think, other than if there's a wheel damage, then it can't move anymore. But it's becoming a situation where the English would really like to actually board that thing because its crew value is getting so low. Now the question comes to what I want to do next. Well, I want to force the French to move. And this ship, no harm to doing that. I'll do it again. I've got an ahead here. I'll do that. No harm there. I'll force them to move again. Now here's the problem. If this moves forward, it does not get a rake, and I have to make a turn. On the other hand, if I let the Brits move, that's to their advantage. The Brits are announcing that the French have to go again, and I'm just thinking that Rivoli wants to move at this point, and probably actually did before. So I'm gonna move, and I have to make a turn here. It's a question of how much of a turn I want to make. See, if I turn that much, they may end up did I just cheat? No. If I turn a full 90 degrees, they may end up crossing my T in the rear. I'm worried about that anyhow because they have this port move. So I'm going to open up on them with my first broadside, and that'll be... Oh! No, I took a port move. So I would move, let's see, must have been like this, and now I can turn this way and run alongside him. Now, if I turn completely, see, if I only turn to this, I don't even get a shot. So I got to turn completely, and that uses up the rest of my movement. So this is the time when I want to fire. So I'll unload. That's going to be my starboard broadside off the Rivoli. I've got a hit, well, 10 points worth of hit, so that drops me to 41. But it is a first broadside, and it's close. So that's 20. So I'm actually at 61 here. And I'll unload on it and hope I get lucky. Yeah, I'm just questioning whether I want to go for its rigging, because if I can get 2 hits on the rigging, but the chance of that, 21 or less. Yeah, you know, if I can get 2 hits on its rigging, then I can probably concentrate against this. So I'm gonna No, I can't get 2 hits on the rigging because it'll be at a penalty. All right, so I'm at 61, right? Yeah, going for the hull. And I get 55, that's a hit, but it's also a critical. And the critical is, of course, interesting. A 6 is a special critical. A 4, it's on fire. Okay. I don't remember my effects of this. It takes a hull hit, and during the fire phase, it has a chance of blowing up. And that's all we get there. But at least I got a penalty on its next fire. Well, I'll force the French to move again. 3. Now here's the question. Do I want to fire at this range? I can be at range 6 or at range 3, 4, 5, 6, or 2, 4, 7. So I'm going to hold. Now it's up to the Brits. Well, the Brits are going to move. And they're going to move with their head, and now they're going to unload on me. And that's the problem. Okay, so my base is 52. Rate is the same. It's a bow, so it's 62. First fire brings it up to 82. And this is going to be a port fire. At 82, that's a pretty big number. 46 means I don't get 2 hits, so all I get is 1 hit on the Mercure. And you can see the level of luck in this game. You know, just the die rolls can be pretty significant. It's not just that there are a lot of them. Each individual one can be pretty important. Okay, that leaves us back with the Brits having to make a choice. I'll force the French to move. They have a starboard move. Now, their ship is not as good in melee. So I'm going to take an avoidance. And then I don't know if I want to go in that direction. Let's see. I'm going to be turning to the right. See, I'm not going to get a... Alright, I'm unloading on them like that. Yep. And that's the Mercure starboard guns. Let me make sure the avoiding fouling works that way. I'm not positive it does. Yeah, he makes a turn. .83B. Yeah, they can go in either direction. I thought that was the case. Okay, so now I'm a 41 firing first fire from the Mercure, which puts me up to 61. And I guess we go for the hull there. Ooh, 12. That's 2 hits on the Weasel. That's nice. And that puts our last move on the English. Move. And we're going to see that kind of hinder my turn capability. Wow, why is this a B on the back? That's weird. That looks like a misprint to me. And we move to turn 3 and flip these suckers over. And now what we've got is the French having the same number of ships that are going to be beam reaching, I believe it is. I can't remember my terms. No, broad reaching. And I think that may randomize which side gets the wind gauge, because it's not going to matter about the slower ships, it's just the number of faster ships. Okay, so the choices have been made, and most importantly, right here in the area, the French are doing a wear here, which is going to put them here flipped around, whereas the English are doing, God knows, a starboard turn. Probably planning on cutting behind them, I don't know. And over here, the English are doing a port turn, which is a problem because of the wind, really. And the French are doing a starboard turn, trying to get around. Question is, who gets the wind gauge, though? Because we both have only one ship with a 6. The English will win on an odd roll. Okay, so they get it again. So, they get first call. And we would like to chew this sucker up first. So we'll sail into there. And the Weasel has already fired its port gun. This is not a rake, so I'm only at 42 because of damage. That's not great. But that's enough to do another hit on the Mercure, which will reduce the damage it can do to me. Now the question is what I want to do about that wear, but I think I may want to move this sucker first. See, if I allow the French to move and turn, they're going to get first shot on me. That's always one of the problems in the game, is giving the other guy first shot is not a good thing. So what if I move here? I've still got the Rivoli in range 6. That's going to be minus 10. Another minus 10 for the damage, but that puts me down to 42, but I've got a, bow rake there. This guy's going speed 5, actually. I got a bow rake there. So what did I say? Minus 20. So he's a 52. He's a plus 10. And that is, again, the port gun. Not quite 2 hits. So the Rivoli is now at minus 20, though, when it fires, which is always, the thing. The more damage you can chew into your opponent, the better you can do them for. Okay. Now, I don't believe I made my turn yet. So, I think I'm going to force the French to move. I'll just plug this forward. No big harm in that. Well, that didn't help, so I think I'll force them to move again. And we're gonna... Ah, that ain't starboard. I don't get a rake here. And here's the problem. The English will get another move if the French allow them to. The English can take another move if they wish. So the French aren't going to end up here. So I'm going to open fire on them. The poor Rivoli is down 20. He's range 3, so that it's down 30. But this is his port guns here. So that makes him down 20. He's only at 31 at this point. Ooh! Damn. So that hits the Victorious with a third hit and a critical. I gotta go to the criticals table. That's one thing that I wish they'd used some of that instead of quite such large font. 6, another special. 4, that's another fire critical. That's not going to do anything except the extra hull hit, but that's kind of cool. I'll force the French to move again, and they want to make that wear, I guess, but here's the problem. That wear, I think, is going to force them to foul. Oh boy. And firing at fouled units, I don't remember how that works, so I may want to move this sucker instead and take first fire with him. Jeez, I don't know. Alright, I'm gonna have to look up the rules to see how that, because I don't think I can avoid that wear. I think that's gonna push me into there no matter what, because this isn't a matter of turning. I'm slamming into a mass first, and if I do that first, then I'm not sure that this guy can fire into the combined force. In fact, I'm pretty sure he can't, but I want to make indeed. So I'm going to actually move this sucker first, and see, I don't remember whether or not he's fulfilled his command. That's the problem with this little system. He has already fulfilled it, which means I do not have to turn again, and I don't want to, because I want to stay in this position. I might be able to do something that'll give me a rake. I doubt it, though. So now I'm forcing the French to move again. They'll move these ahead, and now these guys are firing, and they get a bow rake. And that may not have been the wisest thing. I could have gotten out of that bow rake, but I didn't want to get fired on by this ship. I wanted to force it to foul. So here I'm at range 5, which is minus 10. The Jena is firing what? Its starboard guns. That'll be first fire. That cancels that out. The bow rake will give me plus 10, and I'm going to shoot into the hull because I want to hurt the crew. So it looks like a 51, and that'll be a hit on the Weasel, dropping its crew a little bit. Now I want to force the French to move again. This guy hasn't made his turn. Alright. So the French will wear, which means they flip kind of this way. I could go this way. This is beating into the wind. I can go like this, and I go into here. Now, it uses up my movement. I'm fouled. You could say, wow, what's up with that? There's going to be a fire phase which happens in the sequence of play here during the melee stage. Just before melee, I'll get to fire, and since I've already fired with the Brits, the French are going to get first shot there. So that may be kind of ugly for them. And now the next move, well, these guys are fouled, so he lost his shit as well. Starboard A. And then I have this fella who has to turn, and he really has no choice. He has to go like this because he can't go directly into the wind and be in irons. That's illegal. All right, now we get to see for the very first time that I've done this, what happens when you got things in the same hex. The Mercure is going to fire its starboard guns, which it's already fired. No range penalty whatsoever. So I'm a 41. I'm not going to get any kind of positional advantage. Minus 10 puts me to 31. And we're firing this into the hull because we're doing melee here. Another lucky shot on the Weasel. And now we go to melee. And we haven't done melee before. Uh-oh. Okay. So, melee happens. I've moved everything, right? Yeah, I'd better because I already fired. Melee happens by determining boarding value, 11.22. And these will be added together for all ships. This is going to be the current crew value minus the rate. Okay, the current crew value of the Mercure is only a 4. 6 minus 2 hits, whereas this is 8 minus 4 hits. So they're both 4s for crew value, and they're both 6 rates. So they're both at minus 2. Okay. And then we'll roll a die and add those minus 2s to it. Use red for the Brits. And the Brits get a 2 and the French get a 0. The sums are compared. If one sum is larger than the other by 150% or more, yeah, that's true. The higher sum has taken all the enemy ships in the square as prizes. Otherwise, the melee had no effect, and it can keep going as long as they're fouled. If one player's sum is 0 or a negative player and the other one's positive, yeah, then they're prizes. If both are negative, the melee has no effect. If all the ships have a negative boarding value, only the highest of these is considered. And then we'll have to worry about unfouling, which happens next. But right now, the Mercure has been taken as a prize. And let's look at unfouling. At the beginning of each unfouling stage, both players can declare any and all of their fouled ships attempt to unfoul. If it's got no enemy vessels in it, that's correct. Then I unfoul on a 1 through 3, and each ship gets a chance to roll. If it unfouls, the owning player removes it from the fouled stack and places it in any unoccupied square, facing in any direction. And if the friendly ship is alone, it also can be faced in any direction. That's probably not too big a deal. Okay, so I'm going to try to unfoul with the Brits because I want to get them further out. And they succeed. So we'll put them there. And, well, we'll put the froggies facing this way. Try to get them out of there. Now, I would like to have some kind of counter to remind me, as I move to turn 4, that is a captured ship, and I'll probably put some spare counter on there. Alright, that's it for a bit. Okay, so command decisions have been made. Ahead. Port. Must have been expecting these guys to go ahead. I think he meant starboard, but I need those little S's and P's that my ex used to have on her hand. Another port here to swing around. Actually, it's keeping my ships kind of together, so it's kind of cool. Because you can't tell what the opponent's going to do. It's a guesswork game. And this guy's wearing so that he can flip back here, turn around, and, well, he's actually, yeah, he's beating against the wind there, so this is his way of getting back into the fight, maybe. All right. Well, the Brits have the wind gauge again because they have the fast ship. So now they get to choose, and it's very clear they want to unload on the Poriana. And this is going to be a port which we fired already. I'm at minus 20 from existing damage. But make that plus 10 for the rake. So I'm a 42. This is the best I can do. I kind of really want to get the Victorious into play against those other little ships. But as long as the Rivoly's still around and trading shots with it, and it's on fire, I think the French may have this one. And we miss, even though we got a doubles for a potential critical. Now, I don't want to give the French the move because they can do an avoidance move of this ship and line up a better shot than they're going to get if I let them move first. So I've got to move the Brits first here. Now, do I want to move this? No, I don't. So I take my 3 move, and I've got a starboard turn I've got to make. I'm going to spin so that I'm still catching the wind full. Oops. And now I want to start giving the French moves. Well, this is the only way I can shoot. And that leaves me with more moves. So I'll wait and I'll close the range. Give the French the move again. We want to come in and we're going to fire that sucker. 41, that's not a rake, but it is the Yena's first fire off the port side. It's fired off the starboard already. And let's see, so that goes to 50, 61 actually. It's 20 points because I'm close range. Yep. So 61, and that sounds like that's all I've got. Let's see if we can pound the weasel down to submission. Well, we missed. That wasn't too hot. Alright, well, we want to keep giving the French moves because we've got this ship to take care of. They'll just take this because it doesn't mean anything. And now we'll go to the final ship. And I've got a port move. Now here's the problem. The English are going to be in this hex, facing one of those directions. I don't have to take my turn yet. I don't think I'm going to, but I think I am going to fire, and this is going to be port fire off the Rivoli at minus, and this is a rake. Ooh, sweet. And it's a stern rake. Wow. That's what the Brits get for staying back, hanging back and not taking the turn. Okay, so this is a 51 minus 20 for the damage, puts me down to 31, but a stern rake is plus 20. So I'm at equal, but I'm then at minus 10 for the range, and that's all I read. So 41. And getting first fire is good, but not if you can't hit. So now comes the Brits. I want to, well, they have the option again. I want to force these guys to move or not. They've got to make a port move, and they could be facing this way, like this, if they finish that port move. That won't give me any advantage on my wear. So I'm going to take the wear like this. There's no penalty for firing during a wear. Attack is uglier. So now I'm at range 4. This is going to be my first fire with my starboard broadside. So I'm at minus 20, but plus 10 for the first fire, because the range is greater here. So that's minus 10. And I guess we'll just pound into it. 52 is about as good as I can hope. That is not enough to get 2 hits. I would have needed a 12 or less. So the Rivoli takes its 5th hit. Now, yeah, it's able to take 7 before it's in trouble. And that means that the Rivoli gets the next move with a port move. Now, remember, he doesn't get his shot, but he's lined up in a very nice position here if he gets to move again. Of course, the Brits are probably going to get the wind gauge. You can see they've got 2, this should be an A, 2 A sailors. If I flip it over. Oh no, this is a B. Damn. Okay, so they've got an A and a B sailor, but all we've got is B's anyway. So their A sailor with the wind hitting it full is going to give them the maximum speed. And I've been cheating. I've been playing this as an A sailing ship. Oops. Alright. Alright, we pulled our chits for the 5th phase here, set them up, and well, I'm actually playing by the rules here where the British ship of the line has its limited movement allowance of 5 because it's only a B class. No biggie. The Brits completely control this though. They have the wind gauge and they have some nice positions, and a head move here where they get to slam in, and then this port move here where they're going to be able to line up a couple of rakes basically, and this puts the French in a lot of trouble. So I get to choose what I want. I'll take the fast guy first, and I get to unload a starboard from the Weasel. That's the first time it's fired from the starboard. Now I'm at minus 20, but I'm at close range first fire, so that breaks even. And then I got a bow rake that puts me up to a 62, and I'm just going to keep pounding on whatever this is, the Jena. Well, we haven't hit that yet. Ooh. All right, so that's 2 hits and a critical. Now the French can come sail in and take this prize back for whatever it's worth, which is just about nothing. It's really whoever holds the battlefield gets to keep it. So for our critical, we have a wheel hit on the Jena. And that means with 2 hits against it, it may or may not actually be able to select its counter next time, chit counter next time. And we'll flip this over, but it still does get to fire. Now here's the problem. If I can't give the French a move because I have to take this shot that I've got lined up here. But if I give them the next move here, they have this sort of free turn that they can take to avoid fouling, or they can engage me by fouling and force a close range firing where they have the shot left and I don't, and also they'll be able to board me, which may or may not be to my advantage. But no matter what, they have a lot more options if I don't move first. But I want to move this because I want to take this shot. Now, obviously, I don't want to keep turning to the port, although this may not be so terrible because I get my shot in. He's got a starboard turn. He'd get a aft rake if I do that, so I'll just stay like this. I already fulfilled my turn requirement before. So now the Victorious is at minus 2 or minus 20, but I'm getting a bow rake, so it's only minus 10, so my numbers are 52, and I miss. And now I need to move this guy, and he's just making it a head move. Now obviously I've just opened up a stern rake, but jeez, maybe I don't want to do that. If I don't do that, what is my chance? Because he can avoid here and then he doesn't get a rake, or avoid here and he doesn't get a rake. So I'd rather not let him in if I have the advantage in a fight, in a melee. So how much damage has the Weasel taken compared to the Jena? The Jena's taken 2, the Weasel's taken 4. The Weasels, they're at equal. So I'm going to actually force the French to go first. And the French have a number of options here to launch into a collision or fouling. I'll open things up by moving the ship that doesn't require any thought. Now I gotta think anyway. Oops. Somehow I knew that would happen. Life is so strange that way. Okay, so what about the Rivoli? How is that compared to the Victorious? And let's make sure, because the Victorious has a higher crew number here. And there's just something screwed up. I'm assuming the front side is correct. I don't have an errata to indicate which one it is. I think I had one somewhere at some point, but I don't remember. So the Victorious has taken 4 hits, the Rivoli's taken 5. So the Rivoli's only got a single crew. I don't want to engage with that. So I'm allowed to, let's see, I've got a starboard turn. I'm allowed to avoid by turning this way, and then I can take my starboard turn. And that took 2 of my movement allowance. And now I can open up with the Rivoli, starboard fire, minus 20 for damage, but plus 20 for a stern rake. So I'm at even there with a 51. That's not an optimal situation for the Brits there. And the Victorious takes a hit. Okay. And now, of course, the French get to go again. I still haven't made my starboard turn, so I'm going. I don't want to turn this way because the Brits are likely to get the wind gauge, and they'll just cross my T there. Now, chances are they'll be able to cross it anyway, but maybe not as extensively and at as close a range. Now, over here, question with the Jena: do I want to launch into what is an even fight there? Because the Brits are going to force me to move there. Or do I want to fire without crossing, without getting a rake? And those are really my only options. So that is the Jena. I've used both port and starboard. With that wheel hit, I'm going in. And I'm going to take my turn so that we're like that. Doesn't really matter, I get to fire. That's all that really matters. But we're fouled. That takes his chip off, and we go to the fire and melee phase. And at this point, I'm at 41, 31, no rakes, we'll fire. No hit. I could flip this, but I don't really have to. I want to take a look at what we are here, because it looks like here I also have the numbers screwed up. And they're not on there. It's not meant to be that way. I just wanted to make sure, hey, if you fire, does that mean that lowers your crew value? Okay, so the Rivoli's got a 1, the Jena's got a 4 crew, and the Weasel has a 5. I think that means the Weasel's at +1. Their rates are the same. Let's see, boarding value, crew value minus rate. Okay, crew value, rate is 6th rate. So the Jena is a -2, and the Weasel is a -1. That makes sense? Yeah. So red for the Brits. The Brits roll a 1. The French roll a 1. They're fouled and they're still stuck there. Now they can make an attempt to unfoul at this point. Flip these suckers. Does either side want out of there? Who gets the first shot? It's 11.3. Let us see. Any unoccupied adjacent square. Okay, so both people get to rearrange. The French and the Brits both are interested in unfouling. I'm going to say the person with the wind gauge gets the first shot at it because that's not specified here. So the English need a 1. Yep, they get it. So they get their option to unfoul. They want to be on the back side, sort of, here. So they're going to go to this hex. Now they get to determine which direction they're going to face in. This isn't bad. This is probably better, because then I get that avoidance check. And I'm probably going to get the wind gauge. How do the French want to be facing? Well, obviously for wind gauge purpose, they want to be facing this way. But the problem is the English, if you do this, will be able to say where, so that they're facing, or attack so that they're facing like this and get an immediate shot. So we'll place like this and not give up that that rake. Probably a good idea. I don't know. All right, and that puts us over to. I forgot to look up the wheel critical at the moment. I thought it only happened during the command decision. It actually would have lost its command chit and drifted immediately, which could shift its wind direction. The hell with that, you know. I mean, we did it. But at this point, it's got to roll less than or equal to its crew value to keep from drifting. This is the Jena, which is down 2, so it needs a 4 or less, or else it's not gonna. And it doesn't get that, so it's not gonna get to move this turn, which means, of course, no fire unless somebody jumps into its space, which they won't do. Now, does it? Yeah, the ship will drift. Now, remember, drifting isn't the swells. Drifting is just a roll to see if it shifts location. So 1 or 2, it's unaffected. So it stays in the same position as it's in. Which is kind of important because the English were counting on that position, actually. Although they could probably tilt based on it. English have the wind gauge again based on this ship. And we can see that it's moving right in on the Jena and is going to be able to do an avoidance move and fire pretty heavily on it. We'll take care of that to begin with. That's the avoidance in, and then I take one of my starboard turns, and now I'm opening up with the Weasel at -20, which cancels out the penalty for the or the advantage for the stern rake. So I've got a 52 gunnery. 43, I get a hit on the Jena. And it's a shame for me that it's dead in the water there. This guy's just going ahead. So I might as well keep going. And I can do a starboard turn and position myself to go raking him again. And yes, I turned 2 spaces. You're allowed to do that. And now over here, well, I am allowed a port turn, so 2, boink, and now I'm going right in. Yeah, I'm not allowing them to move. And now I open up with the victorious port. That's at -20, but I get 1 back. Oh, is there a penalty for being on fire? No. I have some game where there's a penalty for firing if your ship's on fire, and I thought this might be it. Okay, so I'm at -20 for damage taken, +10 for the bow rake, so I'm a 52. And at the hull some more. No reason for rigging shots at this. I said 52, that just misses. All right, yeah, and you heard a silent little. Sometimes they slip out. I usually don't like making lots of noises when I'm. Let's move this Frenchman. And now we have the one last. Well, what's the condition between the Rivoli and the Victorious? The Rivoli's down to a size of 1 for its crew, whereas the Victorious is at about 4. I do not want to fight it. Chances are we'll both be negative and neither side will be captured, but it's just to my bad. So what the Rivoli's going to do is we're going to turn like this, slide in, That's 3 movement. That uses up my entire... I'm going to shift like this to get as much speed as possible. Not that it matters much because I'll be moving across that diagonal. But now I get my shot. Port fire from the Rivoli, minus 20 for this, but I've got an aft rake, so that all evens out. So I'm a 51. And I get a big hit on the Victorious, which is almost down, I think. One more hit and the Victorious will strike colors. And we move into the 7th. And that would pretty much end things, I think. Because even a beat-up ship of the line is enough. The Weasel's not in great shape in and of itself either. It's only got 2 more hits before it strikes. Alright, on to turn 7, and I flip the counters, and the English are going to be doing a wear, which is a powerful move for them. Allows them to be in this space, so they're going to get a bow rake automatically. And here's the problem with the wind gauge, is you can actually figure out exactly how to screw your opponent over. And I'm getting really tired of it. Now, in the next battle, it's a big enough battle that that optional rule applies. But I know that I've pretty much given up using the wind gauge even when... See, here's the problem. I've given up using the wind gauge even when it's a smaller battle, certainly with something like this, but even with just one ship on each side. But that then becomes actually completely deterministic. So that's kind of troublesome too. So the game loses something compared to, say, the fully plotted movement with that. It's just, you can sit and figure out exactly how you want to react and what you can do. So what's not deterministic, however, is whether or not the Jena there is in trouble. It's minus 3, so I need a 3 or less now. And I don't get it, so I lose my chit again, and I have a possibility of drifting. 1 or a 2 I don't know which direction I go. 3. I mean, yeah, I could not look it up and have just made a decision beforehand, but I didn't bother that. So now I have to look. Drift is 8. So I flip back here. 3 is 45 degrees to port. Alright, even more devastating. Here's the difference. Oh no, that's not devastating. So the Brits would have to wear to take advantage of that, and they didn't do that. They've got this port move, so they're not going to get their rake on the Jena. But that's okay, it's pretty much chewed up. Alright, so now the Brits get to go first if they wish, and they wish. So we'll open up with the wear here. I can swing this way, and then with the wind coming, I'll take it this way. This uses up all my movement. There's no penalty to wearing for firing. So now it's a starboard fire off the Victorious. I'm at minus 30 though, plus 10 for the thing, but so that now I need a 42 on that. And that's sufficient to hit the Rivoli. The Rivoli's down 6. I think it just struck. Yes, it only has a crew. No. Its crew's at 0. It only has a hull of 3. It's actually got 1 more hit that it can take. The Victorious does not have another. The Victorious is also at this point where if it takes another hit, it strikes. So they're pretty much beaten to crap at this point. Going over here, well, I need to take advantage of this. I've got a 3. And a port move, and this isn't going to be a broadside no matter how I take it. Got 3 move left, so I'll open fire with the Weasel. It's a 52, but it's taken 20 or it's taken 2 penalties, so it's down to 32, and that's all I got on there. That's enough to hit the Jena though. And the Jena with 4 hits is going to strike. I'll force the French to move next. This has no real option. I'll shift up this way. Not a great option either way, but I get a little bit more, well, I get the same speed either way. I'm just worried the English will be able to shoot me if I don't have the Jena protecting me there. So we'll do that. And now, well, I might as well move these English. Did I take a port move or not? Uh-oh. I was here, I think. I moved here. This should have been a port move. Okay. I kind of cheated. Alright, and now I get another move if I wanted, and I'll take that. And now over here. Well, the thing is, the Rivoli would like to get a shot in, because it could finish it off that way. And if it does boarding, it probably will not, because they've got a better value. So I need to do a port move 2. That is not my port move. 4 and a turn, and now I open fire with a bow rake. Alright, so that's 51. Minus 3 puts me down to only 21. Plus 10 for the bow rake, 31. I may or may not hit it. I do not. Alright, that puts us on turn 8. Now, every 8th turn is where things get funky. Every 8th turn, I'm in the strategic cycle, so we check swell first. That's 13.1. On a 1 or a 2, the ship stays where it is, otherwise it moves leeward. And I'm pronouncing that wrong apparently, but okay, over here. And here. For whatever that matters. Alright, but I also have the fire. And that's 13.2. If I'm on fire, I have a chance of blowing up. On a 1, it blows up. Any other roll, it takes a hull hit, which will be a surrender. So the Victorious has surrendered. Now it's the Weasel against a badly damaged Rivoli, which can take 1 more hit. And the Mamluk, which is in fine shape, but is a rate below it. So it is actually kind of an interesting fight, I think. I'll turn this to a 0, because that helps me remember that I did that little bookkeeping type inner turn, or in between the turns phases. Alright, I think this time we're going to see no fire, or very little fire at least, long range fire. The English, once again, of course, have the wind gauge with the Weasel, which is still a very maneuverable little ship. The Jena's been knocked out, so I don't have to worry about its wheel. So what do the English want? Well, they want to force the French to move. French are going to move this sucker. He's doing a starboard. Wow, that's weird. So I guess he'll shift like this. That was kind of a dumb move, actually. But I have fire available here. The Mamluk has not fired either gun. Now, I'm outside of range that I can do anything useful. Since I don't have any mast hits on anything, how bad's the Weasel? The Weasel's 4 down. Whoa! The Weasel will strike, won't it? Shit. The Weasel's taken its 4 hits. It would strike, and it probably struck it back here with the Jena. I'll keep the Weasel alive, but it should have struck, I think. And in fact, I think it's dead in the water. And should have been earlier. In which case, the French have won. I believe it's dead in the water. Let me look this up. If it's lost its mast, if it's lost mass, if it's a prize, if it's been abandoned, C12. A ship is considered abandoned the moment it takes hull hits equal to 10 minus its rate. Yeah, the Weasel surrendered a while back, and probably the Jena did not, because the Weasel shot at the Jena and finished it off. Oh well. So I'm going to call this one, because even though they're at this distance, maybe they would try to sail away, assuming that they did some heroic effort to get there. But clearly the French will be able to regain the prize ships. And this thing, well, it's on fire. It's just dead. So I guess we'll call this one a wrap and send it up. Now the next ones are a little more interesting because they have enough ships that the optional rule can take effect, and like I said, I'm sick of the wind gauge being as powerful as it is. So I'll set one of them up a little later.